This is Behind the Curtain. And today we have the cast of First City Players' production of Proof, a play written by David Auburn. And I was the director of said play. I am the director of said play. So we're just here to have a little bit of a conversation. And it's really, I just want to say, it feels really good to be back in the same room with the four of you. Mm-hmm. For me, this was one of my 5 favorite theatrical productions I have directed. On so many levels, it was just a joy, from cast to the crew to the set to a gorgeous script. So that having been said, all of you come in with different levels of experience and having done different types of theater. So Jack, what kind of things can you tell me about what you've done and how Proof ties into that?
Well, my experience ranges from amateur and community theater productions to regional theater productions to professional theater productions, and I've been lucky enough to be, I think it's the 7th production I've had with First City Players, and it's I've enjoyed all of them, but there are 2 or 3 that really feel like they've been community theater productions at the professional theater level, and this was one of those. And it has a lot to do with the people that were involved, of course, but I think really the beginning for this production was the script. It's just such a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of writing, and I don't know about the rest of the cast, but typically before a show has auditions or begins rehearsing, I might read a script once or twice just so that I get familiar with the language and the characters and the story. I couldn't stop reading this one. I read it, I think, 6 or 7 times before we even began rehearsals.
Absolutely, yeah. I was first introduced to the script right after it was published, which was in 2001, I think, and it won the Pulitzer Prize that year.
And the Tony.
And the Tony Award that year. And I had it in my head that every year we were going to do a Pulitzer Prize winning play, which isn't always possible. Not every Pulitzer Prize winning play is something that a community theater can produce. But I wanted that one so badly, and that was the year after that we moved out of our tiny little 50-seat space, and I had trouble wrapping my head around doing this particular show in the high school, which is giant. It's such an intimate show. So when we decided last year that this was something that we would do, it was an utter, it felt like I was given the biggest Christmas present ever, that I was able to do this really beautiful script. And maybe before we go any further, for people who weren't able to see Proof, can you guys give me just a little bit of background of what the show itself is? Keith, can you sort of wrap that up in
okay.
nutshell?
Well, we should introduce what our characters are.
Yeah.
My character is a mathematician of the highest order in his mid-50s, so I had to play it a little young. He is a professor at the University of Chicago and has been challenged by mental illness for a number of years in his late career. I'm obsessed, mathematicians in general, Auburn did his research, are obsessed with age because most of the greatest work done by mathematicians is actually done around in someone's early 20s. And so in my early 20s, I had...
in Robert's early 20s?
Yes. I'm speaking as Robert. In my character's early 20s, I'm gonna stick with it.
You do it.
Me while I'm here with you, and then I'll return to myself later. No, in early 20s, took the mathematical world, set it on fire with lots of discoveries, and so I had 2 wonderful daughters. Your mother is not part of the play. She'd already passed on. And the whole play begins as you find out at the very end of the first act is a scene between us, and you are also it's your 25th birthday, a brilliant mathematician in your own right. Mostly it sounds like a dad is encouraging his daughter to just realize her promise as a mathematician, and clearly she's been depressed and doing nothing but reading magazines and staying in bed all day. And then we have this cheap bottle of champagne that only she drinks in the beginning scene, and then it revealed in the end of the scene that I, in fact, had died early on in the week.
Just because I went bug house doesn't mean you will.
Dad.
Listen, life changes fast in your early 20s and it shakes you up. You're feeling down. It's been a bad week. I've had a lousy couple of years. No one knows that better than me, but you're gonna be okay.
Yeah?
Yes, just push yourself. Don't read so many magazines. Sit down, get the machinery going again, and I swear to God you'll be fine. The simple fact that we can talk about this together is a good sign.
A good sign.
Yes.
How can it be a good sign?
Because crazy people don't sit around wondering if they're nuts.
They don't?
No, of course not. They've got better things to do. Take it from me. A very good sign that you're crazy is the inability to ask the question, am I crazy?
Even if the answer is yes.
Crazy people don't ask, you see? So
Right.
if you're asking,
I'm not.
but if you were, it'd be a good sign.
A good sign.
A good sign that you're fine.
Right.
You see? You just got to think these things through. So come on, what do you say? Let's call it a night. You go up, get some sleep, and then in the morning you
Wait,
can...
no.
What's the matter?
It doesn't work.
Why not?
It doesn't make sense.
Well, sure it does.
No.
Well, why not?
Because you are crazy.
What difference does that
You just
make?
admitted, you just told me that you are.
So?
So you said a crazy person could not admit that.
Well,
So?
Oh. It's a point.
So how can you admit it?
Well, because I'm also dead. Aren't I?
You died a week ago.
Heart failure. Quick. Funeral's tomorrow.
That's why Claire's flying in from New York.
Yes.
You're sitting here. You're giving me advice. You brought me champagne.
Yes.
Which means,
For you.
yes.
For you, Catherine. My daughter. Whom I love very much. Could be a bad sign.
And one of the things in just staging that whole scene was that it seems very normal how they're interacting with each other, but at the end of the scene you realize they've never touched. That he doesn't touch the bottle, there's nothing he actually hands to her, that they sit next to each other, but they never touch. There's no physical touch at all, which was to me very important because he was not really there. The father was not physically present because he was dead.
So,
I love that moment.
It was also very challenging to play as a character where, so I played Catherine in the play, one of the daughters of the mathematician, but that Keith is referencing in this first act. And something that was interesting is partway through our rehearsal process, we started talking about how do you hold in yourself talking to someone who's not there, but also not knowing it, but knowing it because he's dead. But in that moment, the audience doesn't know he's dead. I don't actually really know he's dead in that moment. And then it's revealed at the end of Act 1 that he is in fact dead, and I've been talking to a dead man this whole time.